Welcome everybody back to another impromptu photography vlog. Today we are trying something different, something that I've been wanting to do now for the past couple weeks, and that is photograph some lightning. So we are here at Evangola State Park, my usual go-to local spot, which I do have a big project planned for, and I might talk about that in this video. I might save it for another video. But it's going to be a really fun project that I'm very excited to share with you guys, alongside another project that I have going on. But there is a big thunderstorm over the lake, and I wanted to make sure that a lot of radars were showing that the storm was over the lake and not where I was trying to shoot, because that would cause a few problems. One, you're kind of in harm's way with the lightning. That's a bad thing. The second thing is the rain. Last thing you want is to be getting rained on while you're doing long exposures. So right now I have my camera set up just over there, locked off on a tripod, and I put a 1.5 stop ND filter on it, just so I could get like a couple seconds of exposure on there, couple seconds long exposure, and there just goes another flash. So hopefully that got picked up. It's a lot of cloud to cloud lightning since we're over the lake, so I don't know how well that's going to show up in the frame. I'm very excited to see if I've caught anything, because I've seen about 3 or so flashes since I started recording. And I'm just very excited to see what it looks like, and I kind of have an idea of how I want to edit it and put it together, similar to how we do the Star Trail stuff, just loading everything into a stack and stacking all the bolts together to get a much more active image, I guess. But it's supposed to be getting a lot better around like 7:30, at least I hope, lightning wise, at least according to the radar. A lot more yellow and red over the lake. So I'm very excited for that. Let's go over to the camera though real quick so I can show you guys what's going on. Yeah, so this is the current settings, f13, 5 seconds, since I'm just on aperture priority, ISO 64, and this is the composition. As you can see, this down tree here, I know I kind of like it. Looks very ominous over the beach there, and luckily they haven't removed this one yet. Yeah, now it's just kind of a waiting game. And I'll try to keep you guys updated as this goes on. But I just got my camera locked off, shutter release cable, just holding it down, taking shot after shot so I don't miss anything. One other tip I could give you if you're going to do something like this, again, is double, triple check the weather. I use the Weather Channel app, and another app I'm using called Climb for the radar. But make sure you bring a lot of SD cards, as many as you can, and like 2 batteries at least. I know this battery isn't fully charged. I tried to charge a little bit before I got here, but I got here a little bit earlier too. I knew it wasn't going to be starting to get good around like 7:15, but I got here at like 5:50, like almost before 6 o'clock, because I didn't want the radar to be too off. And then I got there when I thought it was going to be good, but then it already was good. Or it was like the rain was already passing through. But yeah, this is really exciting. I want to stop the camera and just look and check to see if I got anything, but I know as soon as I do that, there's going to be a big bolt lighting, and I'm going to miss it. That already happened one time, so it's just patience is key. I just saw a frame and it had a bolt of lightning. Mission success. A lot of the other lightning is, like I said, has been like cloud to cloud. It's like little flashes in the actual clouds up there. But just off that way over there, full bolt of lightning all the way down to the horizon, and I got it on the frame. And there goes another one. This is awesome. This is awesome. The sheer power of Mother Nature showing off over the lake right now. That is something. I'm gonna try to film more time lapse. All right, another update. We got way more lightning in the frame here, which is really cool. This battery's gonna need to be changed soon, but I'm like noticing some weird weather patterns right now. Like, it's not really raining where I'm standing, but like, I can see rain droplets in the water, and the beach is only maybe like 30 feet out. And there's just some Canadian geese right there swimming, about 4 of them just hanging out together. They don't seem to be bothered at all. It's like really calm over here, and then it's like a fireworks show out there, man. I'm super happy about this. So pumped. And yeah, the editing process, I'll run over this briefly because we'll go over it later. But because I've never edited lightning photos, so this is like a first time thing for me, you know, a learning experience. Taking you, and there was another huge flash right there. Hopefully that one got picked up. And I just changed from f13 to f11 because the exposure was getting too long. I don't think that makes too big of a difference. But I was like getting up to 8 seconds, and I kind of want to keep it around 6 to 8 seconds for as long as possible. But you know, maybe longer exposures is not that big of a deal. I've only watched a handful of videos on this type of stuff, but I think what we're going to do is basically take all of our good lightning shots and try to load them into a stack and then do the lighten blending mode like we did for the star trails, and that hopefully should yield some good results. Alright, this is probably going to be the last update while I'm here. There is a wall of rain rolling in, and it's getting closer every second. So, and it's starting to rain a lot now too, so we might have to get out of here, like, in the next 5 minutes. It is like a wall of rain. Look at this. Just like that, there's the rain. Right on cue. Wow. I was literally running back to the truck. Wow. I was like running away from a wall of just torrential downpour. Wow, wow, wow. Now we're getting out of here. Welcome back to the studio, everybody. Feels great to be back here and out of the pouring rain, the wind, and the thunder and the lightning. I gotta say, that drive back was pretty intense. You guys saw that footage I took from inside the truck, how windy it was, how hard the rain was coming down. It literally felt like almost kind of like a hurricane, right? Not that intense, but you know, the rain, the poor visibility, the wind, you know, branches were breaking off, some trees flying all over the place. It was crazy. And yeah, like I said, the drive back was pretty hectic. You know, power went out in that area, several street lights completely out, police officers out directing traffic. It was kind of a war zone for about 20 to 30 minutes, and then it all just kind of went back to normal. That's kind of how it is with these storms. They come in fast and they leave fast. So you want to make sure you're in the right position at the right time. And I gotta say, one of the biggest takeaways is, and you know, for a learning experience, someone like myself who's just learning to do this stuff and trying to pass on this information to you guys so you don't make the same mistakes, is to make sure that you plan ahead, right? Take the proper precautions and plan ahead with this type of photography, because it is going to save you a lot of frustrations. You want to check the weather days in advance, be looking at Doppler radars on like the Weather Channel, on Climb, what other weather apps you use. Make sure you're checking out actual radar imaging so you can see where these storm cells are moving in and where you can be, so you can, you know, be set up to be looking into the storm. You want to be outside of the storm. You don't want to be in it, because you're going to be in harm's way at that point. You're going to be getting rained on. The wind is going to be very intense, and you're not going to get the shot you want. So make sure you are outside of the storm, looking in, plan ahead. And again, that should set you up for some pretty amazing photos. And speaking of photos, let's go ahead and look at Lightroom here, where we have just 4 images here that have actual bolts of lightning, and I'll label these as green just so we have them better organized. So yeah, we have this photo, this photo, this photo, and this photo. This one we actually ended up getting the most lightning in. I think there's like 2 or 3 different bolts of lightning in there. One of them is like really, really faint. You can see it right there. This one kind of splits into a Y shape or a fork. And then there's another one that kind of does this like a V-shaped pattern in the sky. They're really, really cool. Very, very proud to be able to actually have finally photographed lightning. It's been a goal of mine for a little while. So it feels great to finally have these photos, right? But I also want to talk about like 2 different methods that I think you could do for shooting lightning, and I think one works better in the daytime and the other works better in the nighttime. And the one that I think works better in the daytime is the method that I ended up using. Now, I could be completely wrong. You could probably do the other method during the daytime too. This is just kind of what I went in knowing with a little experience I had, and I just, used what I already knew about like star trails and things like that and kind of applied it to this and figured it should work, and it did work. So it's definitely a method that you can try on your own when you're out doing something like this. But, it's daytime, obviously. Long exposures, we run the risk of blowing out highlights, obviously, especially if you're not using an ND filter, right? If you don't have an ND filter, that might make things a little bit more difficult. But I opted to go with, a bunch of 6 to like 10-second exposures and blend all of the bolts together in Photoshop using the light and blending mode. And that's what I ended up doing, and we'll go over that when we get to Photoshop. And I think that probably works pretty good for the daytime. Now, you could do the other method probably, which is doing, 30 seconds to 2-minute exposures and trying to get as much lightning as you can in the frame as possible. And then you just have one photo to work with, and it kind of saves you some editing time. But again, during the daytime, that might pose a challenge of like blowing out your sky, right? Which is a risk that I didn't want to run. And maybe with this picture here, for example, I could have used like a variable ND filter or a graduated ND filter, right? Where I could have left the shutter open a little bit longer, not worried so much about blowing out the highlights. But again, wanted to play it safe and just do, more blending, I guess, after the fact. Not something I'm really too concerned about doing, spending a little bit more time editing. But I think if you're shooting this stuff at nighttime, which is something I still want to do, I think what I would do personally is just do a bunch of 30-second exposures, and you're not really going to have the option to do anything else outside of that at the nighttime anyways, right? Because your camera's just going to need a long exposure anyways. And also depends on how much lightning's happening, right? So it might be better just to leave it open for like 1 minute to 2 minutes, like in the bulb or timer mode, and just let it run and try to get as much as you possibly can. So there's like 2 methods there. And again, I could have like done the super long exposures, but I think this just worked better. A lot more photos to be taken, I guess, that way too, but it works, right? It worked out. So with all that being said, let's look at some of the edits here I did. I mean, it's just basic adjustments of, shadows and highlights. I went a little heavier on the dehaze here to really bring out some of the details in the cloud, help the lightning stick out just a little bit more. And on this last image here, I actually ended up doing a little bit of a desaturation in the sky, just global desaturation of the whole image, because when I blended all of these together in Photoshop, I noticed this sky here was blending in a bit weird, and it was like a little bit of a bluish color, and it didn't look right. So what I ended up doing was desaturating it to kind of match a little bit with the flatter tones here in these other photos. You can see the clouds in these photos aren't nearly as detailed and as dramatic, right? It's really bright here and it's really dark here. So I figured if I, just toned down the saturation a little bit, it would help things out, and it actually ended up helping. So let's hop into Photoshop here and take a look at the final result. And I think there's one thing I still need to do with this photo, and it's not necessarily a I don't want to do a 16:9. I just wanted to crop in just a little bit on this side here. You can already see I had to do quite a bit of cropping there, but yeah, I just wanted to crop a little bit off that right side there to kind of bring that tree more into the center of the frame. And I kind of like how these bolts kind of go in this center, in this third, kind of into the center, and then into the third of this side of the frame, kind of like arcs over the top. Not the greatest photo, right? There's been better lightning photos, but it's one of my first, and I do like it quite a bit. Maybe I cropped a little bit too much
on the bottom there, but I'll fix that off camera. I just want to just chop a little bit off that right side there. Well, let's talk about what we did. So here's the blend. And if I turn everything off, you can see here's that one photo. And then here is everything else getting added in. And this is all just using, this was using the lighten blend in mode, as you can see there, lighten. And I believe I had to mask out a little bit of weirdness that was happening over here. I think if I turn that off, I don't know if it'll be able to show up here or not, but yeah, something I had to do, and just use the blending mode. Everything worked out fine. The desaturation fixed a little bit of the weirdness, and then this was the blended and merged result. Made everything one, cropped it a little bit, and also you're probably wondering, you know, these other photos here, where are they? These two that I first took, they were a little not level. So basically what I did was is just selected all 4 of these photos and used the auto align feature, and it just auto aligned them. It brought the horizon level and made everything work out perfectly. So that was an easy fix there. So I wasn't too concerned that the first 2 photos horizon wasn't level, and I moved the camera. Luckily the composition is very basic. There's not a lot going on, so it's very easy for Photoshop to handle that. Did a little Color Efex Pro here. One of my favorite plugins, again, to use in Photoshop, the Nik Collection Color Efex Pro. Little object removal. I kind of went a little crazy here, clearing some things out. Maybe I go back and redo some of this. But I think maybe I went a little overboard. I definitely wanted to get rid of some of the buoys in the water, and some of the driftwood, but I think outside of that, it works pretty good. And then a little dodge and burn here to bring up the tree a little bit, because I wanted to kind of accent some of the highlights on the tree, some of the bark, and some of the areas where we were getting a little bit of highlights of the light from the lightning actually hitting the tree. So I wanted to use the dodge and burn to kind of, you know, bring that out a little bit. And then here, this is a very, very subtle layer here. This is like a highlights 3 selection here. As you can see, everything that's white is, you know, 100%. That's what we're going to mess with. And then everything all the way to black is what we're not messing with. So as you can see, I've only selected, you know, the very, very bright things in the sky, like the lightning itself, some of the clouds, right? And I could have, you know, gone even further and masked out some other things, but I decided I didn't really need to. So you can see here, it just brings up some of the bolts and the lightning up a little bit, some of those values. And I think here we added just a little bit of midtones contrast in the blue channel, a little bit of contrast back into the sky to kind of add back what we lost. And I did a little bit of that desaturation, especially in that one photo. Ended up warming up the beach a little bit, kind of give it a little bit more color separation. Another object removal layer here. I ended up wanting to get rid of some of this stuff over here, which honestly I might just get rid of that entirely in the future. This is a highlights. Yeah, so this is bringing down the highlights in the sky a little bit to make it look a little bit darker. And because I think it was maybe a little too bright. And then we have a high pass for just some sharpening on the entire image. I decided to go for the entire image here to help really bring out the bolts of lightning a little bit, and then just a signature, obviously. So this one I might go back and redo, but that's kind of basically what I did to it. It's kind of just my editing style there. And if I can crop this here, yeah, there we go. Just a little bit off the side there. Nothing too crazy. I think that looks a little bit better. It's a weird aspect ratio, but I think that looks fine. Now here we have what I think is my favorite edit. This photo I like a lot. It's a black and white. I really, really am happy with this one. And I actually had to go back and re-edit this one because there was some weird, you know, pixelation, some weird artifacting that I was getting in the clouds and in the water, and I think that was mainly because I was pushing the values of the black and white filter in Photoshop just a little too much, and I think I applied it a little too early in the editing process as well. I know there's tons of different ways you can do black and white photos, right? It's entirely personal preference. I didn't do black and white in Lightroom again. I exported them to Photoshop as color photos and blended the other bolt in here, as you can see, using that lighten blending mode. There's the blended result, Color Efex Pro, object removal, and again, you see I left some of this driftwood here, which is something I wish I would have done on the other photo, which I might go back and fix. I'm probably going to go back and fix. Not really a question. So blue channel to darken a lot of that blue tone there in the sky, to kind of match more so what I saw in real life. Bring that down a little bit. Dodge and burn there on the tree. Brought this up and then darkened sort of the root section here. And this brought up the foreground a little bit. High pass in just the foreground because I didn't want to sharpen any potential noise out there. Which again, something I could have also done in the other photo, but we had more lightning in the other photo, so I think it worked out a little bit better. Noise reduction out there as well. Super highlights, as you can see here. This is really just, and you can see how, selective this is. When I turn this on and off, you can see it's only really just brightening up those bolts of lightning there. And yeah, just a gamma boost there. Right there in the curves layer and shadows. This is adding, this is darkening the shadows there in the sky to give it more of a dramatic look. Another sky darken here, just global, adjustment using a curves layer. That's where it kind of really gets moody. And that's where I add the black and white filter and then just a little bit of contrast, just global contrast there right at the end. And that really, really ties it together. Now, did I do a lot to this photo? I think I did, but it's more so on the lines of like a fine art photography shot, which is kind of what I was going for here with the black and white version. And I wanted to have two versions, right? I wanted to have like a black and white, more so like artsy, moody version, and then more of like a natural color version like I have here. So very happy with these photos. I am very, very excited to go out and try to do something like this again. I'm constantly checking the weather right now, as time goes on, looking for good opportunities. I definitely want to go during the nighttime though next and get some lightning over the city. But yeah, that's going to do it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey. Hope you learned something, and yeah, we'll see you guys in the next one.